budgets is always an interesting question. If we think about just the value that a loyalty business offers to a company, that would give us confidence that budgets are going to maintain. There's really good ROI of the money we invest into our loyalty programs and the returns that we get. That means sustaining budgets will be there. If we think about some of the trends that we're seeing that will play out in 26, such as new generations like Gen Z coming through and driving more market force, what we'll see is even if marketing budgets maintain, they're probably going to evolve of like where we spend them and how we spend them. Equally, if we think about the trends of AI coming through, we're going to see loyalty programs have to invest into these new technologies to make sure that we can understand our customers, we can bring the right offers to them. And so I think you'll not only see continued, I'd probably say slight growth of our marketing budgets, but we'll also need additional budget to enhance the technology that sits across our programs.
A lot of people talking about how they're going to be investing more capex into their loyalty programs for 26 and beyond. And I think it still comes back to where that money is going to be spent. I mean, if I would be honest, it is a very expensive exercise to rip the type of infrastructure that we are out of the ground all at one time. It's definitely not been a cheap exercise, shall I say. But I think the investment where everyone's going is in the right place, and that is about how to create everyday loyalty. And a lot of this interview, I think, will be around everyday loyalty because it is definitely the topic of conversation across all verticals of loyalty. It's everyone's fighting for that customer for everyday use because if I can be front of mind, then that's obviously creating the loyalty beyond, traditional vertical. And obviously, I think to airlines, to hotel programs have somewhat different challenges because an airline loyalty program may only see a bulk of their tail getting on a flight every 1 to 2 years. So for them, the opportunity to get really good results quickly will be really quite easier than compared to a hotel program that might see someone stay at their hotel property 2 or 3 times a year. So for an airline, I think that this is the biggest opportunity for investment in terms of everyday. That's what really excites me. I think hotel programs will also see some really good benefits as well. But I think from an investment point of view, it's about how these loyalty programs are going to create the everyday. But it's just so many pieces to make that happen. And part of that is how do you create a dynamic marketplace of opportunities? But then you create the opportunity, but how do you get the personalization right? And globally, we're partnered with WPP and AKQA that have some of the biggest experience in this particular industry. And part of what we're doing and what we're working on here together is to really lift that capability. So I think, yeah, opportunity wise, definitely massive investments in everyday and personalization. But again, it takes some really strong foundational technology to get there. And that's also needs to be not forgotten. You need that. It's a bit like my father always say, you can plan to build a house, but it comes down to how well you build it. And that's basically where we're at for 26.
The expectation is that these will continue to grow. Budgets will continue to grow in 2026. And primarily driven by the emergence of new technology. The leaders are going to start investing quite heavily in this new technology. And the whole ecosystem is going to want to keep up with those leaders in this space. And so investments are going to continue to grow to maintain that and to make sure all our customers, all the programs are playing on a level playing field there. This is also changing so fast. The technology is changing and evolving so fast that there's investment needed to keep up with it, right? And this investment is going to continue to increase to keep up with the level of change and the pace of change. And finally, customer expectations are also changing quite fast with this new technology. And so programs, airlines, hotels are going to have to continue to invest in this space to maintain that interaction with the customer, to maintain their loyalty, because otherwise they're going to start falling behind.
when I look into 2026, of course, egoistically, I would like that the budgets of all of our clients are increasing, and they invest a lot of money in technology, and all of my peers will say the same. And I do see, I think, a tendency that budgets will not necessarily decrease, although the instability, the global instability will cause a few question marks. But what we have seen is that travel is a very resilient business. And particularly the value that travel adds to economies, the value that it adds to the individual companies, and the need to deliver that value through strong technological platforms and all of the changes that are happening. I think we'll see budget certainly not decreasing, and hopefully increasing a bit. Although the expectation that with the same budget and productivity improvements, you get a lot further is also there. So I see a slight hope for increasing budgets in the next year, to be honest.
In general, we think that budgets will grow, but they will shift. Why am I saying this? Because the investment will increase in AI. This is from an internal part of view. In AI, in data infrastructure, in the UX and gamification layers, in digital reward intervention, the partner integration and ecosystem is something that we are working internally, and it is eventually going to grow. But this also implies that, well, this goes to the price of the client, because the traditional marketing spend may decline, mostly in publicity, what we normally knew. But as loyalty delivers measurable impact on the retention, this will expect growth, I think, worldwide from 5 to 15% in the market. So to protect this kind of investment, loyalty teams, we think that it must communicate mostly in financial terms, that it needs to be a retention uplift, a purchase frequency, and a margin impact. And we think that the CFO accountability became so much more central.
Budgets will remain fairly constant, with maybe moderate increases possible if we see the economic improvements in the first half of 2026 that some analysts are pointing to. I mean, keeping your best customers and growing their relationship with your brand has always been the goal. But brands will really need to shift dollars away from discount-driven retention, which is really fragile and expensive, toward emotional loyalty strategies that are more resilient and cost-effective in the long term. And specifically, I envision brands increasing investment in infrastructure. So think technology, analytics, AI, to really power the personalization and dynamic data activation that will strengthen those relationships. And marketers really will need to demonstrate the value of these investments so that measurement becomes essential.
Now, with my events hat on, we're seeing the consultants turning up much more at the events, and they're telling me that the programs are coming to them with increasing bits, not necessarily about total revamps, but how they actually make the programs better, how they get more engagement. And the other trend that we've noticed is the consultants who work out the liability, the people sitting at the back end, the actuaries, they're appearing more often. So those budgets are going up.
One of the other things I hear in a lot of my discussions in the industry is, I want more investment in the loyalty program, but it's really hard to get. I'm competing with so many other departments and divisions and silos for a fixed amount of capital. And a lot of those other organizations are able to directly link their efforts to more profit and revenue for the enterprise. That's not the case a lot of the time for loyalty programs. Credit cards and selling points are a different story, where it's very easy to link exactly what you're asking the investment for to dollars and cents that will flow through the P&L, right? But all the other stuff that falls outside of that, where you're not actually selling the points, linking that investment to actual dollars and cents value creation for the enterprise is much more difficult. And so I think one of the things that we're going to see is loyalty programs are going to try to solve that problem in order for them to be able to tell a really rich data-driven narrative so that they can get more investment in the loyalty program. I think it'll be very, very difficult to get the investment that every single loyalty program wants for them and knows that they need to really move the needle with their loyalty program. It will be very difficult to get that until we can solve that problem.
Budgets in 2026 at the moment, from conversations I've been having with clients, it looks really healthy. I think there was a lot of holding back last year. I think there was a lot of uncertainty baked into the kind of the market, really. I'm predominantly in the UK with retail, in kind of the retail space, not sure where the industry was going, where spending powers were going to be. So I'm hearing that budgets are good. I'm also hearing that the ability and the interest in moving a step change forward is greater than ever. Let's see whether that's talk, whether that actually comes to fruition. But I'm excited about what that could mean.